Grace Holloway, a 24-year-old nurse in training, vanishes after a night shift at Mission Hospital. Her roommate reports her missing, and the authorities are initially indifferent, believing she might have run away. However, Grace's mother, Linda, insists something is wrong. She would never leave without calling. Before we dive into this gripping story, drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. And if you love stories packed with mystery and drama, don't forget to like this video and hit that subscribe button. There's so much more coming your way. A closer look at security footage reveals that Grace's car mysteriously disappears after she pulls into a 24-hour gas station. No one sees her leave. The initial investigation is messy. Grace's boyfriend, Logan, is quickly questioned. A local carpenter with a history of violence, he denies knowing anything about Grace's disappearance. Grace's best friend, Sadie, is interviewed, but her nervousness raises red flags. Her alibi doesn't check out. The first twist, Sadie receives an anonymous message on her phone, warning her to stop cooperating with the investigation. Is she guilty or simply a pawn in something darker? A key break in the case comes when investigators find footage of a mysterious man at the gas station where Grace was last seen. The man, hooded and unrecognizable, walks past Grace's car and seems to be heading into the woods. The police struggle to identify him, but his presence hints at a much more sinister conspiracy. Could Grace have been taken by someone she knew? Detective Melissa Crane is brought in to lead the case after local law enforcement fails to make progress. She begins to uncover troubling patterns, a series of missing women from the area, unrelated at first glance, but all have vanished in the shadow of the Pisgah National Forest. Could there be a serial predator at work? Crane's instincts tell her that Grace's case is more than a simple disappearance. A tip leads the investigation to an abandoned cabin deep in the forest. Inside, police find disturbing evidence: a locked, soundproof room. The room contains restraints, bloodstains, and traces of other victims. DNA tests confirm the presence of 2 other women's blood, but neither match Grace's. However, on the floor lies Grace's necklace, something only she was known to wear. The cabin becomes a central clue, suggesting that the disappearance was planned, but by who? A breakthrough comes when a local hiker, hiking near the cabin, uploads a photo from the night Grace disappeared. The image reveals a figure wearing an old military coat, dragging what appears to be a large bag through the woods. The forensic enhancement confirms that the figure is wearing a coat that matches one worn by Richard Kessler, a former soldier and survivalist who lives off the grid. Kessler's history includes charges of assault and harassment, but he's been off the radar for years. Crane orders a manhunt for Kessler, tracking him through the remote mountains. Using drones and thermal imaging, they narrow down his location. After 2 tense weeks, Kessler is captured without incident. He remains eerily calm, denying all involvement. The evidence against him mounts, but he insists the police have the wrong person. With no bodies and no direct confession, the investigation stalls. Just as the case seems to be reaching a standstill, an unexpected twist occurs. Grace's phone pings a cell tower 70 miles away, weeks after Kessler's arrest. Does this mean Grace is still alive, or is someone else involved? A race against time begins to find her before it's too late. A young woman named Lila is discovered wandering the streets of Boone, North Carolina. She's disoriented, dehydrated, and covered in bruises, claiming she had been held captive in a basement for months. Lila reveals that she saw Grace, alive, but weak and barely able to speak. In a chilling moment, Lila describes the man who held them, a man with a distinctive tattoo, a symbol matching one on Richard Kessler's wrist. But the tattoo is also traced to a retired police officer in Asheville, Daryl Knox. Lila's description of the basement where she was held matches an old property owned by Daryl Knox, a retired officer who was previously in charge of missing persons cases. Upon raiding Knox's home, investigators find evidence of several more missing women. Grace, too, is found, alive but barely conscious. It's revealed that Knox and Kessler were former army buddies who used their skills to abduct and hold women, using the basement as their horrific lair. Knox's involvement is shocking, especially considering his role in leading previous investigations into missing women. Grace, recovering in the hospital, struggles to process the trauma. She reveals the horror of her captivity, her survival, and the mental toll it took on her. With Knox's arrest, the case begins to draw national attention. But questions remain. How many other victims are there? And how long has this been going on? It becomes clear that Knox used his position to bury evidence and mislead investigations. The victims were treated as afterthoughts, their cases closed with no further investigation. As the D builds a case against Knox, more women come forward, linking him to cold cases going back years. But Knox's silence continues, raising suspicions that he may not be the mastermind after all. Is there someone more dangerous lurking behind the scenes? New information surfaces about a potential accomplice, Sadie, Grace's best friend. Her strange behavior during the investigation, coupled with financial discrepancies, suggests she might have been involved in Grace's abduction. Sadie insists she's innocent, but detectives begin to piece together a shocking connection. The plot thickens as it becomes clear that Sadie had been hiding something much darker than anyone could have imagined. Sadie's role is exposed when investigators uncover hidden communications with Knox and Kessler. She had been part of their operation all along, helping lure women into their clutches under the guise of friendship and trust. Sadie's emotional breakdown during her interrogation reveals her deep psychological manipulation by Knox, who had been blackmailing her into cooperating. Her betrayal shakes Grace to the core. How could her closest friend have been part of her torment? With Knox and Sadie in custody, Grace's story becomes a public spectacle, sparking widespread outrage. But the full extent of the crime ring is still not clear. A final, dangerous search is conducted to find other victims, women who have disappeared over the years, possibly never given a second thought. The clock is ticking as authorities fear that someone more dangerous may still be at large, pulling the strings from behind bars. Grace, now a survivor, works with the authorities to piece together the full story of the abductions. She becomes a key figure in the movement to raise awareness for missing persons cases, speaking out against the complacency in law enforcement. She discovers a disturbing connection between her own family history and the kidnappers, including a shocking letter she finds in Knox's possession. In a final twist, investigators discover a hidden chamber within the cold room that no one had noticed before. Inside, they find more chilling evidence, DNA samples, journals, and photographs that tell the gruesome history of Knox and Kessler's reign of terror. But there's one photograph that stands out, Grace's face, staring back from a previous victim's album. Grace's trauma runs deeper than anyone realizes. As she continues to recover, she confronts the long-term effects of her captivity, grappling with her identity, her role in the investigation, and the emotional scars that will never fade. The case reaches a climactic conclusion when Knox and Kessler are sentenced to life in prison. But for Grace, the true battle is just beginning. Grace turns her pain into a powerful force for good, founding a charity to help survivors of kidnapping and trauma. Her foundation brings attention to the overlooked cases of missing persons, pushing for change within the justice system. Her voice becomes a beacon of hope for other survivors who felt forgotten. Years after the trial, Grace reflects on her journey and the impact it's had on her life. She remains a voice for the voiceless, continuing her fight to uncover the truth about the hidden crime rings that still exist. Her story becomes one of survival, strength, and the power of speaking out. Her final words echo through the generations: "We cannot afford to forget. We cannot afford to be silent." Thanks for watching. If you're hooked on gripping stories like this, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. Your support means the world to us. With love and gratitude, I invite you to join our community for more captivating content. Subscribe now for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you.